This episode has been sponsored by Bar 7 Diamonds in Crawley. From the whole team here at Sussex LGBT, we would like to extend our sincere gratitude for their generous donation. Before we introduce our next guest, please welcome back a familiar face to our podcast. It's, of course, Skye.
Hi.
Hello. Welcome back.
Thank you.
How you
nice
feeling?
to be in this chair for a change.
Yes. From go-go dancing in the past to forefronting Pride festivals all over the country, our next guest is the undisputed and much-loved VIP Brighton drag. She's a meticulous artist who used a global pandemic to reinvent her craft and reconnect with everyday truth. Fans know her as the hilariously sharp, fearless, and honest Queen of the Coast. But she's also a powerful advocate for justice who stands up for what is right and true. Her performances allow her audience to escape the consuming world and instead experience authentic happiness. The capacity to deliver uplifting joy is quite simply a slice of pure magic in a very busy, constant and revolving world. She's intentional, she's iconic, and she's here with us today. It is a true honour. Please welcome the absolutely gorgeous Ophelia Payne.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to Authentically LGBT.
Well, thank you ever so much for having me. It's very exciting.
It's amazing that you're here. I really love this.
Yeah.
Now, before we get going, I ask all of our guests this, and I would love your input.
Okay.
So, the word queer,
Yes.
the term queer,
Yes.
positive, negative, do you like that term? Do you not like that term? Tell me.
Oh, well, okay. Well, I would use it to identify myself sometimes. Yeah. So generally a positive word.
Excellent.
I know you're going to find it hard to believe, but I'm a lady of a certain age, and my first ever Pride was, I think, 90, maybe around about 95 or 96.
Okay.
And that was a time when we were actually trying to take that word back. And I remember marching through the streets of London shouting, "We're here, we're queer, get used to it."
Nice.
And that was kind of like the sort of first time that we were taking that word and making it a positive thing. So
Fine.
whilst I understand that a lot of the older generation do find it a bit negative, I remember us trying to take the power from it.
It's a really interesting word. And actually, a lot of our guests, they have very different opinions about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's something that has come up multiple times since we've started our journey through just this podcast, but also as a company. So it's really interesting.
I think I've definitely it's definitely been used against me in a negative way, but I do think there is a lot of power in that the community taking that word back. And just I remember that the absolute exhilaration of marching through London and shouting it as loudly as I could.
Love that.
And it was just, I sort of like one of my sort of very, very key memories in my coming out journey. Yeah.
So it was used as a slur for you and a couple of times.
Oh,
you think?
more than a couple. Yeah.
Because when I was at school, and we won't go into this because we have spoken about it before, but when I was at school, I think I got gay all the time.
Yeah.
But then I identify as gay, so that doesn't really matter for me.
Yeah.
I think the younger generation now are reinventing it as a term to identify with.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think in the same way as gay could be negative or positive, I think it's obviously the context that it's used in at the end of the day as well. I mean, I would say the F word is one that I struggle a little bit with.
Yeah.
But again, I think the younger generation are trying to, change the narrative around that word and use it. But I don't know. Yeah, that one I struggle with a little bit.
Yeah,
Me
I
too.
agree. I don't think that one's...
But maybe there's a podcast that will happen in 20 years' time, and we might get invited back as guests for that one, and we'll be in the same position. So who knows?
Exactly. I think it's an ever-changing world, and I do think taking away somebody's ability to hurt you with a word is very powerful.
Sure.
And whilst we all might have our own personal trauma around a specific word that's been used against us in a specific situation, owning it and taking away its ability to upset you, I think is, it's a good thing. And I
That's
think
a really nice way to kind of put it, I think, actually. Yeah, I've not thought about that before.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you.
Can we dive into your coming out story?
Okay, yeah.
As far back as you want to go, or as deep as you want
The
to go.
late 1800s.
Tell us everything.
Oh gosh.
Give us your story.
Well, I mean, I'm a trans lady as well, so
Fabulous.
I think us trans ladies end up having several coming out stories. So, yeah, gosh, I grew up in very conservative area of Kent.
Okay.
And I also was at Roman Catholic school as well. So yeah. Which,
tough world.
Was tough. Like my primary school was run by nuns.
Okay.
And very strict nuns as well. Yeah. Scary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite handy with a ruler as well. Just like really whack you and stuff. Yeah. And I just remember always being different. And I remember I think my first ever crush on a boy was about 6 or 7. And he was the captain of the football. Not that I knew anything about football, but
No, me either.
yeah. I came out quite young, really. I think I'd always been very feminine.
Sure.
And I was very into like theatre and music and singing and art and all that kind of stuff. So like I always stood out, and I got bullied a lot at school. And I kind of got to a point of where I kept saying, no, I'm not gay. Like, ooh, I'm not gay. Stop hitting me. And I just thought, well, I am. So I might as well, they're going to keep beating me up anyway. So I might as well just come out and own it.
And how old do you think you was?
I was 14, I think, when I came
out.
So I was still doing my GCSEs and stuff. And I was still at like Roman Catholic school.
How did that go down at the Catholic school for the nuns?
The secondary school wasn't nuns anymore.
Oh, the secondary school wasn't.
But it was still Roman Catholic.
Okay.
Yeah, my primary was the nuns.
Fine.
We moved away from the nuns, but it was still Roman Catholic.
Okay.
Not terribly well. Yeah, I remember back then as well. Obviously, we had Section 28 back then as well.
Yeah.
So it was a very difficult environment to be a gay kid or a queer kid, and also to come out at that time, because whilst there may have been teachers in other schools who would be willing to help and talk to you and stuff, they legally were not allowed to.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of the people who were teaching back then were very scared of dealing with that as a conversation, because they could potentially lose their jobs.
Yeah.
So I remember at my secondary school when I was being bullied, and when I did come out and said, this is why I'm being bullied, because I'm gay, nobody wanted to help me.
Wow.
And so it was lonely. It definitely felt very, very lonely. And I didn't really talk to my parents about it and stuff either.
Okay.
I didn't want them to know I was getting bullied, because I didn't want them coming in school. But yeah, it was difficult.
Okay.
It was difficult, but at the same time, obviously, coming out is such a big thing to do, and it was the right thing to do, and it was very positive for me to be able to be authentically myself. But yeah, it was tough.
Do you think if Section 28 wasn't there, it would have been an easier story for you?
But probably not in a very religious education system.
Yeah, of course.
I think that would have still been something that they would not necessarily have tackled.
Yeah. Bullies are always going to hate, though, right?
Yeah.
Same as trolls.
Of course.
In the modern world, they're always going to hate.
Yeah, and I think kids are still getting bullied for being in the LGBTQ plus community. So, you know, that's why we still have pride at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's tough. So that's your schooling.
Yes.
What about the next stage? Have you found yourself having to come out multiple times?
Yeah, definitely. So
in different scenarios, different settings?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm in my mid-40s. I have lived predominantly my life as a gay man, but had always, I remember back as a teenager struggling with my gender identity. And I think, again, back then it was very difficult to talk about those things. Like trans people certainly weren't as visible.
Yeah.
And I didn't really even know the word trans back then.
Okay.
Like, I remember the Lesbian and Gay Society that was at my A-level college arguing about whether they were going to let the bisexual people in back then as well.
Wow, okay.
So, it's like we were just the L and the G back then. And then it was the B, and then everyone else was adding letters on as well. So like we, didn't really even really know about trans.
No.
But I knew that there was something else about me.
Okay.
And I was always very feminine, and I did try and hide it an awful lot. So yeah, that was it. I remember trying to sort of have a discussion when I was about 16, 17 about my gender.
Okay.
And kind of didn't know the word for it, but was like, I feel like a woman. But nobody really sort of understanding what I was talking about.
No.
So then I kind of just sort of shoved that to the side, really, which was a bit sad.
But if someone was like, actually, okay, well, this is probably what you're going through, do you think you would have come out?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, 100%. I think I've kind of gone through my life not really fitting in as a gay man and not really finding my place because I wasn't a gay man. So,
that must be tough, right?
Yeah,
because you've felt really isolated at school, thinking that you were a gay person, and then you come out and gone, actually, I still don't know what I'm.
Still not quite right.
Yeah, I don't know why am I not fitting in. Yeah, that must have been really hard.
And I think you tend to try and sort of become what you think everybody else wants you to be.
Absolutely,
so, I went to the gym and became really ripped and grew a beard and tried to just be what I thought was what all the gay guys wanted, but I still was really miserable and unhappy with my body and stuff. And then drag was really what enabled me to start exploring my gender and feeling more confident in actually, starting to socially transition and,
So drag's your superpower.
I think
in a way.
I think drag I think drag should be everybody's superpower.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is. It just allows you to just explore and be somebody else. And I remember it did get to a point where it was like, it was a little bit difficult because coming out of drag, I would start feeling quite dysphoric and stuff and was like, oh God, I've got to go back to being that person. But that then to me pushed me to want to, really finally again come out again as a trans woman. So yeah.
And that's more recent? Is that more recent?
It's not been that long really. I think it's probably about 3 years now.
Socially?
Yeah.
Yeah,
socially. Yeah. So,
how's that? How does it make you feel now?
Amazing.
Now you're talking about it. Are you liberated by it?
Oh, 100%. I don't think I can safely say in my entire life, I've never ever felt as comfortable as I do now with myself, my body, who I am, who everyone else in the world sees as well.
That's incredible. Love that.
No, it's an amazing sense of peace, and that's really quite nice. Yeah.
So your journey to being authentic has been a bit of a rocky road.
Roller coaster.
Then you found drag.
Yeah.
Then you were able to explore your identity in its fullest. Yeah, I love that for you. That's great.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really good.
While we're talking about journeys,
yes,
talk to us about your drag journey then. So when did that start?
Oh gosh. My drag journey, I think, has just always sort of been bubbling away. Do you know what I mean? I remember dabbling in drag at the age of sort of 16, 17. And I used to sneak up to London at the weekends and go gay clubbing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why sneak? Why would?
Well, I was 16 for starters.
Fine, okay.
And my mum thought I was staying at my friend's in Tunbridge Wells. So,
fine.
And I used to get the train up and go to GAY at the Astoria. dabbled a little bit in drag back then, but maybe sort of just more gender fuckery. Oh,
Okay.
I said fuckery. Am I allowed to say that?
You're fine.
Is that okay? So yeah, just sort of played around with that a little bit, and yeah, I used to sneak up there, oh my God, and go on a Saturday and then get the first train back on a Sunday morning, hang out in Compton's Cafe in Soho and stuff at the tender age of 16.
Almost the walk of shame.
I know. My mum used to pick me up at the War Memorial in Tunbridge Wells afterwards, and I would be absolutely spangled because I hadn't slept and I'd been out clubbing all night. So
Did she ask you, oh, how was your night in Tunbridge Wells?
yeah, I mean, she's not a daft woman, so I'm pretty sure she knew that I
Okay.
was up to something.
Okay.
But yeah, we just sort of didn't talk.
It's amazing how we all think our parents just don't have a clue.
Yeah, I
and
know.
they know the
I'm
whole
like,
time.
just looking like a complete state. And I've literally just been hanging around in Soho all night and jumped on the train and was just like, I mean, yeah, we are very dumb as kids because we do think that we're getting away with it and we're so not. Yeah, so dabbled about it then. I remember in college doing a bit of drag, and then I kind of put it aside for a little bit, really. I think I was struggling with the sort of gender thing. I was doing a little bit of like go-go dancing and stuff in Brighton when I moved down there.
Okay.
And I remember doing a little bit of performance stuff at Wild Fruit back in the day.
Yeah.
But I never really sort of pushed it as a career option. It was always just a bit more fun and stuff.
Yeah.
But, I had always wanted to perform. And then, before I was working as a personal trainer, and then before COVID happened, I started thinking, I really I've always done a bit of drag, always done this and that, and I've done little performances here and there. I'm going to give it a little bit of a go. And I did a couple of shows before COVID, and then COVID hit, and I was self-employed and suddenly stuck in a house on my own.
Oh, that was tough.
Yeah, and I would no money coming in. It was really, really tough. And I was like, what am I going to do? And I was like, well, I mean, I'm here just in this house with a cupboard full of wigs and dresses and makeup and stuff and nothing else to do. So I'm just going to go for it.
Love that.
Yeah, I started doing loads of online shows and things. Did a couple of online competitions, and then doing some bingos. And then I was doing Instagram bingo.
Okay.
So I basically put my PayPal link up, and everyone would pay £5 and then come and do Instagram musical bingo on my
Why didn't I
Instagram.
know about this? I would have definitely
I know,
joined.
it was great. And it was, well, basically what it was just me doing musical bingo and gradually just getting drunker and drunker with a little glitter foil curtain behind me, which actually did fall down quite a few times during bingo, yeah. And yeah, it was just very silly and just having a little chat thing going, and yeah,
Brilliant.
It was camp. And then
So you kept like a bit of in touch with the world through the COVID time.
Yeah.
Through that. That's good.
I think it was kind of like some really messed up kind of Big Brother situation. I think everyone was just sort of slowly watching me lose my mind.
Getting drunker and drunker.
Yeah, it was just like through Instagram watching me descend into absolute chaos all alone in my house. But it was fun.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. I'll have to go back. They're live, weren't they? You probably can't watch them,
I
can you?
think I might have taken them down because
No,
they
no.
were very messy. I don't know. I'll have to have a look on my Instagram, but yeah.
So would you say you reinvented yourself then through COVID?
Yeah,
artistry
Ophelia
for drag.
Payne was already a entity, but I think that period of time, I think for everybody, it was such a massive
Yeah, it was.
period of change, and I think everyone just like. I think we live in a world where we just don't stop, do we? So it's like we never get a chance to actually sort of sit with ourselves and actually properly look around us and think, what the hell am I doing with my life?
I mean, it was tough, wasn't it? I mean, there were so many people that lost their lives and it was hard for a lot of people, but I quite enjoyed the peace.
Yeah.
didn't
I know,
Any
don't come
peace.
for me, but I was in my garden with cocktails, sunbathing, having a great time, growing my vegetables.
Yeah.
Had a great time.
Yeah, I think I think we had to find a way to find some positivity in such a dreadful, awful situation, you know. And it was really scary. I think we all suddenly like just having the brakes put on your life.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I know an awful lot of people took a time to reflect and sort of came out of COVID changing things quite drastically about themselves and their lives and stuff.
I think that's when the GICs got swamped with people wanting to transition, wasn't it? Them having that time to sit and reflect on themselves. And realise, who they were. And they were just like, oh, okay.
And I think actually, you know, that we don't do that enough in life. We don't stop and take a moment.
It's all a hustle.
Yeah, and it's very easy to just keep going because there's so many distractions that we never really sit with ourselves on our own and really think about things. And I think I had too much time, which is why I just descended into utter chaos. And then this happened.
Here she is.
I always find it mad that when people say that they had so much time on their hands, because I had less time on my hands.
Did you?
Yeah. I mean, I worked in a pharmacy throughout COVID. So like we went from working like normal shifts to working, being the manager of the branch, I was working like 13-hour days. So I was non-stop throughout COVID. It was insane. And then there's all people like you. I was laying in my garden,
catching up on my tan. However, there is a bit of guilt on that because a really close friend of mine, actually, she nearly lost her life. She was hospitalised, and I'm definitely not taking away from that. But I do love my own company. And I love being at home. So for me, it was great. But can I also tell you, and those that are close to me know that I don't like hugging. I don't like hugs.
Do you not
I'm
like
very
hugs?
socially awkward like that.
Oh, no.
So COVID was great because then it meant no one could hug me.
Oh, no, I love hugs.
Oh, do you? If someone hugged me, I'd hug them back.
I think I gave you a hug when we got here and I could feel the awkwardness.
But I wouldn't intentionally go to someone's like, anyway, we've come off subject now. Sorry.
That's all right. Vince is all in for social distancing.
Social distance, always.
Bring it back.
No more germs. Let's get back to your drag story, though.
Yeah. So, and weirdly, the Instagram bingo did really, really well. And I then did a couple of competitions. And actually, one thing I really loved about the time was like I could just sit and be really creative. And I did lots of video work and stuff like that. And when the world sort of started getting back after COVID, a lot of people were still not going into work. Everyone was sort of working from home. So there was this weird sort of resurgence of paid online gigs of like, I started getting booked by corporate companies to do like a Zoom show and bingo and things like that. So
good little money earner.
And then that sort of weirdly was like I maybe doing like one or two of them a week in the end, and like, you know, so I was like, oh, I'm still just don't really need, I have to actually sort of properly go back to work. I can just still stay in the house and put wigs on, which is great. And then it just sort of went on from there, really. And then, you know, when the bars and stuff started opening up, I hadn't really got any regular, actual sort of physical in live gigs. But I did the Brighton's Big Drag Pageant. I did that one year. I had already started doing a little bit of stuff and was building my own things. Like I have a show with my lovely friend Dick called Party Bag. And that sort of had just sort of started. We sort of started putting that together. And then I did the Brighton's Big Drag Pageant. I got in the top 5 the first year I did it. And then the second year I did it, I was in the top 2.
Wow.
Yeah, which I didn't technically win anything, but I've never I've entered competition stuff for and just never really done very well. But that and that the second time I did it, that just sort of really catapulted me into the Brighton scene, and people saw me, and I started working at a venue. I don't really want to name it because it was dreadful in the end, but a very big cabaret venue in Brighton that's had quite a lot of scandal recently from the owner. And then it just sort of went on from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now it's a full-time
job.
Here she is.
Yeah.
Living her best life.
I don't think I ever really intended it to be a full-time job. I thought I was quite happy doing it a little bit part-time.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm doing like 6-7 shows a week at the moment.
Blooming hell.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have your regular venues?
Yeah. So I have a residency at the Queen's Arms on a Thursday. And I work pretty much all the drag circuits. So Legends, Affinity, Bar Broadway, Bedford Tavern, Grosvenor, all that kind of stuff, the sort of main cabaret circuit. And
wow.
Yeah, I do a lot of straight venues as well.
So I was going to ask you this. So we had a catch up, didn't we, on the phone the other week? And you mentioned this, and I thought, does drag have a place in straight venues?
Yeah.
What's your opinion?
Well, yeah, I certainly think so. I think saying straight venues in Brighton is quite hard because I think Brighton is such a microcosm in itself that, yes, we do have some really straight venues. Like, I'm not about to wander down West Street and do drag in the Wetherspoons. Do you know what I mean? But,
I will be there for that one.
yeah, I won't. But I think a lot of the venues and the people that go to Brighton, like it's. Even as tourists who come down to Brighton, it has always been a very queer friendly city. And now you can't swing a handbag without hitting a drag queen at the moment. So they're
That's brilliant.
Multiplying everywhere. I mean, I would quite like to hit a few with the handbag, but yeah, I do. And I think the show that should never be named, RuPaul's Drag Race, it's done a lot of positive things for drag and for queer representation, definitely. Yeah. I think there are a lot of negatives to it as well, especially for maybe sort of the art form of drag in a sense. But it has opened it up to a much wider audience. So people do want to come and see a drag queen.
Do you think that's because it's got into the mainstream? It's mainstream media, isn't it, RuPaul? Then therefore people are seeing that more accessibly.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as a performer, I've definitely learned that I have to adjust what I'm doing depending on where I am, with venue-wise and stuff like that. If I do have a predominantly more straighter audience, I would sometimes cater for a different demographic. Okay. Do you know what I mean? Okay. So
in terms of your content or your persona.
Yeah, well, content, not my persona.
Okay.
I think that's probably what's made me more bookable, is that I am a bit more flexible with what I will do on stage with regards to who's there. Yeah. And I mean, I'm trying desperately not to swear whilst I'm sat here because I do swear a lot. But I think sometimes some of the sort of older genre of drag may not be as palatable for the straighter communities.
Okay. Yeah. Why do you think that?
I think a lot of that, when you're looking at sort of the older styles of drag and stuff like that, which I absolutely love. I am an old lady as well, and that was my first foray. But my first ever drag perform I saw was Regina Fong at the Black Cap, and it is much more tongue in cheek, a bit cheeky, a bit rude, and which is totally fine. But then there's also the kind of more sort of insult comic stuff and things like that, which I think as queer people we've sort of grown up with it, and we're used to it, and we expect it. Whereas I think, if you have a predominantly straight audience and you start ripping into them, then sometimes they can get a little bit like, what the hell's going on?
A bit leery in return.
Yeah, definitely.
So your go-to drag, your artistry, where would you say you are? So you're not an insult. Well, you're diverse then.
Yeah.
In what you offer.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Definitely. I think so many of my shows are so different. depending on what you, I think the thing is, I'll go on and I will test the waters, and I will see what the crowd is like and if I can play around with them or not. So you may come and see a show of mine and I'm just very much focusing on singing the songs and just, a little bit of light banter and stuff. Or you'll come and see a show. I mean, you came and saw a show with me on Sunday. Yeah. There was quite a lot of crowd work, a lot of interaction, a lot of swearing. And a lot of ribbing people and stuff like that. But for me, if I'm ever going to do that, I always want to make sure that the audience is in on the joke and that it's not mean, and that when I'm playing with people in the audience, like you saw, I want to make sure that they're happy and they're comfortable, because I don't want them walking away feeling upset and that I've been rude or anything. But
I think that's important, isn't it, as well? They've got to be in on it.
Yeah.
Do you think some drags go too far then with that?
I don't necessarily too far. I just think there's some audience members that can't cope with the level of ribbing.
Okay.
And
I think there are some people that go to drag shows and don't necessarily know what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah.
Then they get picked on and they get jokes and they take it a bit too much to heart.
Yeah.
When everything is just done for a little.
It's just drag at the end of the day. And if somebody picks on you, if a drag queen picks on you, I mean, I'm going to give you a top tip. Do not sit at the front. I'll give you a couple. Do not sit at the front and don't talk during the performance, because if you are disturbing the drag queen when they're on stage, whether you're sat at the front, the middle, or the back, they will come and find you.
Okay.
And they will then absolutely rip the living daylights out.
Okay.
Get a drink and go to the toilet before they start and stay where you are.
Exactly.
Stay quiet.
Yeah, basically, it's kind of like if you were being hunted by a tiger, lie down, don't move, and don't say a word.
I feel like I do quite the opposite at shows. I usually sit right at the front.
Yeah, but you want to get involved though, and I think I think what I was saying, I think a lot of the straighter audiences, they don't know. We have a long history with drag. Drag is part of our culture, and so if you come out in the queer community and you go to bars and stuff, you're gonna meet drag queens. And you're gonna see drag queens, and drag and stuff has been such an integral part of our history. So we know it and we love it and we expect a bit of ribbing and all that kind of stuff. And also, I think, we grew up being bullied and ribbed all the time. We've got thick skins.
Yeah, hardened to
straight people need to get thicker skins.
How do you cope with the hen do's down there? They get a bit leery. And maybe the stag do's as well. Do they differ in audience? Well, obviously they differ in audience, but in the way that you perform.
It's quite a controversial question.
Is it? Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay, because I always feel a bit I always feel this is a quite difficult answer, because I deal with a lot of hen do's and a lot. Brighton is it's started now in the past couple of weeks. It's like hen and stag season has started. So you go out in Brighton and there's 1,000 hen parties, and obviously do drag brunches and all that kind of stuff. So which it pays a lot of my rent, which is great. Yeah. So I'm all up for it. This is going to be a very, very. I don't know whether this is going to be controversial. Why is it controversial? This is a lived experience as a performer. That I generally end up having more trouble with hen parties than I do with stag parties.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah. So, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen with stag parties, obviously, but I don't know what happens with the hen parties, but they just lose their minds.
It's the white wine.
Yeah, it's the white wine
spritzers.
So, and whenever I have a stag party, the boys are I think they're usually just too terrified to look at me or anything, that they just sit there like that, which is great. And then you can
I can imagine they're either that or they're just well up for it, and
they are
being coaxed into it.
I also think that sometimes when you if I work with some very good people when I do drag brunches, good producers and stuff like that. So a lot of the time the boys will be told behave yourselves. And they kind of weirdly do. And I don't really, I always thought personally it was going to be the other way around. But my experience of doing drag brunches and stuff is that the stag parties are pretty chill. They can get quite wild. They do generally keep their hands to themselves. There's been a few occasions where that hasn't happened. But the hen parties are very, very grabby.
Are they?
Very grabby. And I think they like, I don't know what happens, but they generally literally lose their minds and it can sometimes be like a riot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It must be the alcohol. High on life, alcohol.
It is. And I also think it's it might be a lot of girls who are probably not used to drinking that large amount of alcohol in such a short period of time as well. Whereas maybe all like the boys out on their stag do, the lads, they're used to like downing about 6 or 7 pints.
Maybe. And I'm just talking off the cuff here. So maybe it's because they feel that comfortable.
Yeah.
They feel like they're in that environment. They feel safe.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why they get a bit
nobody
crappy.
else does though. Yeah, I would, yeah, I think so. I think it is kind of a bit of a let loose situation, but it can tip quite easily. I've been in the middle of some very like dodgy situations at hen parties.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Maybe we should talk about that after.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you about that afterwards. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I will say, keep your hands to yourselves, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a lot of that though, isn't there? Like when we're booking for Crawley Pride, some of the drag acts that we've had in the past do talk about that. If they're going to go into the audience, they do want to know kind of where we stand with that, which is a bit odd. But why is that? Why is that? I know it's a personal thing, isn't it?
I think the thing is when you're in drag, people don't like that. They kind of dehumanize you in a really weird way because you're a character and you're very much more flamboyant and dressed up, and you know, you'll be wearing hip pads or false tits, and like. I think people think it's okay to grab you and be inappropriate because they think it's funny. We are like. You know, we have our boundaries. Yeah. And we will come into the audience and we will play and chat and things like that. And like, if I'm ever going to sort of physically interact with anybody in the audience, I always kind of make sure that they look and feel comfortable with whatever's going on. Okay. But an awful lot of the time, you know, I'll be walking through a crowd at a drag brunch and there'll be hands going up my skirt and pinching my butt and stuff like that. And I'll turn around and there's like 20 people behind me and I'm like, well, I've got no idea who's done that, you know, but.
That's insane.
Yeah. And I think they think because you're a character, it's okay, but we're still a human being underneath all of this. Yeah. And actually, you might think that you're grabbing my padded bum, but I can still feel it at the end of the day. And an awful lot of the time, the pads are just at the side. You're literally, that's actually my butt.
Yeah. But I don't think they would do that to any other performer. Which is what I think is a bit strange.
I didn't know they do. Like, I used to work in the cabaret scene, so I've worked with a lot of like burlesque performers and circus performers and things like that as well. And they still will be very, very grabby in that situation as well. I think they generally look at performers as not necessarily real in a weird way, and like we are real. We are
real people.
You know, we're real people. Yeah. So you know, and we do have boundaries like everybody else. So we might be being a bit sexy and a bit provocative and stuff, but that doesn't mean it's a green flag just
Absolutely
to grab us. You know, at the end of the day,
there's a line.
Yeah,
there's
definitely.
a line. I could never imagine myself doing that. Have you ever witnessed anything like that when you've been out and about?
No.
To other performers?
Yeah, you don't really get it in the gay venues so much. Yeah. Like when it gets pretty wild, sometimes on a Saturday night in some of the bars, because you know some people can be a little bit grabby. But like, I would say I do experience it more in the more straighter arenas.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
That's sad. But if we can talk about it and make it a thing, hopefully the message will get out there. Don't touch.
Keep your hands to yourself.
Yeah. Window
Unless
shop
I
only.
ask you.
All right, cool. We have got a couple of questions, actually. These are our hot seat questions.
Oh, hot.
Here we go.
Okay, cool. Let's do
you wanna
it.
go
Can you
first?
feel yourself warming up?
Yeah, I can feel it.
We'll turn it on.
I love it. Switch on the heated seat.
Yes, maybe that's what we should get next time. Massage chairs.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely. We'll be asleep.
I think we will like.
Do you want to go first?
I've heard that Skye has quite a few questions for me.
I've got one question that's of particular interest to me.
Okay.
And that's, I was wondering how you differentiate between your drag persona acting as a woman and being a woman as a trans person.
That is a very interesting question. And I think it is quite difficult, because I feel the further I have been going down my social transition, I feel that the two personalities are kind of merging in a weird way. I think for me, who Ophelia Payne as a performer is kind of who I've always really been.
Yeah.
So whilst there may be the sort of more extreme aspects of her for the performance side, the drag really was just me really actually finally being myself.
Using it as an outlet.
Yeah. But I will say it's a very valid question, because I definitely find, and it's also really difficult. Like, I've grown my hair and like I try not, I don't wear as many wigs as I used to. So this isn't all my hair. But quite a lot of it is my hair. And I see some people feel a bit cheated sometimes if I haven't got a wig on. So yeah, it's difficult. I don't think I've got a complete answer for you on that one, because I think that the lines can get quite blurred.
Yeah.
I think my style as everyday norm, like going out shopping and stuff, obviously is going to be very different.
What, you mean you're not going out like this?
No,
shopping?
not really. I'm not going. I'm not popping down
Outrageous.
to Tesco's and some sequins and heels. But I personally, when I'm out of drag, I like to have very, very basic natural makeup and stuff for myself. So I do try and make those sort of differences and things like, but yeah, it's hard sometimes to like the where does Ophelia in the daytime and where's Ophelia as a performer sort of end and stop. And I think as drag performers who just like use drag to explore gender and then transition, I do think sometimes it is hard to find and separate the two people sometimes. So yeah, I don't think I'm properly there yet. So you've sent me into a tizzy. I think because I'm still very fresh in my journey for transitioning, that I'm still working out an awful lot about myself and who I am. I think Ophelia as a performer is helping me do that. And I'm finding where the balance is and where the boundaries are, I guess. Yeah.
But I suppose it must be quite nice to have that ability to use Ophelia as a performer, as an outlet to explore areas that you might not necessarily feel brave enough to do otherwise.
I think as well, I think an awful lot of us as trans women will admit that when we do start socially transitioning, it's quite hard to sort of find your style, things that you feel comfortable wearing, and you know how you want your makeup, your hair to look, or whatever. It's like so. I think I've been very lucky that I've had drag to explore that, and I kind of have explored my femininity to a very much a big extreme to be able to sort of find what I feel comfortable with and what looks good and that kind of stuff as well. So
yeah,
yeah,
I think it's an interesting concept to have to separate.
How do you decompress after a performance then? So how you go from Ophelia on stage to being at home, how do you decompress? Obviously you might take off a wig, you might take off some makeup. Like how do you how do you, I guess it's the same question, but how do you decompress from Ophelia at night?
Yeah, I think every drag performer, whether they're trans or cisgendered, struggles with separating the two people sometimes. I think that can get quite muddied. Also because I think everyone out on the scene will call drag queens by their drag name and not their real name. So like when we get out of drag and stuff, and like for me personally, like it depends on whether you're talking at the end of the weekend or halfway through a run of 6 shows. Because generally I'll still be in drag until like Sunday evening.
All right, Sunday evening then, talk to me.
Sunday evening, well, I'm either getting absolutely trolleyed or I'm running back home as quickly as possible. I live on my own, I've got a dog. I get home, I will have a shower, I will take as much of the hairpiece out as I can do. And yeah, I'm like literally, I'm like no makeup, baggy, comfortable clothes.
Love that.
Yeah. Mondays for me, like don't ever text me or try and get in touch with me on a Monday.
That's hilarious. That was so liberating for me. When you messaged me, you were like, I'm so sorry. I'm like MIA on a Monday.
Yeah.
That was brilliant. I've never heard of that before. I'm going to take that up. I think that's brilliant.
Don't talk to me on a Monday. It's just not happening. I've either got a hangover or I'm exhausted.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or both.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of people want to do business on a Monday, and I'm always just like, I'm literally lying in a dark room staring at the ceiling. Like, I'm like, just don't. I think the thing is when you're a performer as well, it's so like draining of your social battery. I'm very neurodivergent as well. You might probably have noticed. And so I have a limited amount of social battery interaction in my brain. I have to be very careful how I use it because obviously, you know, if I'm doing 6 or 7 shows over the weekend, then I've got to make sure I'm on for each of them. So I do find that when I get off stage, I very much don't want anybody to talk to me.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, which is difficult. Right? People are like, can we have a photo, Ophelia? And I'm like, no!
I've run out of batteries.
I'm like, yeah, give me a minute. And then I run out the back door. Like I need time to recharge.
Yeah. It's good that you know that though, because otherwise you'll just burn out.
Yeah. Physically and mentally, like I need to just not talk to anybody and just hang out with my dog, eat some food, like watch some crappy telly, and then I'm all right. Then I can get going again. Do you know what I mean? Nice. Yeah.
I have one more question. Have you got any more questions, Skye? No. I've got one more question before we pass it to the audience.
Oh gosh, okay.
Okay, it's not a tough question. If there is a trans person watching right now, this podcast, and they're struggling in their transition or coming out, what would you say to them? What would your advice to them be?
I think just get out and meet people and find a good community and have that support around you, because I think the scary thing is the socially transitioning part of it, is going from that one point to the other and going out and doing like daily tasks and stuff when you first start socially transitioning is really difficult, and you feel very, very self-conscious. So find a good community, find people that you can talk to, find people that you can go and have a coffee with or something like that, or go shopping with, and just do it as well. And I wasted so much of my life worrying about what everybody else was going to think of me. And not being myself. And the most liberating thing that I've ever done in my life is finally just going, I don't care what anyone thinks of me. This is me, and this is who I want to be. And I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life. So
that's amazing.
Just do it and find some groups. There's amazing groups that you can find. Like, you know, come and see you guys here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And go to a drag show.
Yeah.
Go to a drag show.
Everyone or maybe, should go to a drag show.
I mean, there's too many drag queens in the world, but try drag. Just not in my town.
Not on my
joking, I'm joking.
Amazing, thank you. So I'm
okay.
going to pass it to the audience now, if you're happy with that.
Yeah.
My question is there any one person, or was there anything that inspired your drag, like your drag looks, your performances, or your character?
Oh gosh, there's so many. I think, like I said, my first ever drag show was like Vagina Fong, who was an absolute legend, a lip syncer and stuff, and gosh, I don't know. There's so many different aspects of it that have sort of inspired me, and actually I learn from all the different performers that I've worked with over the years as well. So I don't think it's one specific person. I would say definitely, as I said, Vagina Fong. First, I remember just walking into the Black Cap in Camden, and the atmosphere was amazing. And I just remember them being so funny. And they used to do the same act nearly every week, but like everyone used to come along and do a little typewriter song and stuff. And it just, I was like, oh, I really want to do that. That looks so much fun. So yeah, that would probably be the one performer that really sort of changed my viewpoint of drag and make me want to do it. Yeah.
Do you think you've taken bits of other drag, like Paul O'Grady, for example? Like, have you looked back and gone, I can resonate with that?
I grew up certainly where like drag was kind of on the telly. Like, you know, we had Dame Edna, obviously Lily Savage. I mean, there was so much drag. There was like Kenny Everett, all that kind of stuff. And there's always such this furore about how drag is suddenly like on the telly and it's so damaging and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, well, no, actually drag's been on the telly for like
forever, like
60, 70 years. Yeah. Like you just don't realize that's what you've been watching. You know? I think you learn from all of the greats at the end of the day, and there's so many amazing performers. You obviously miss Jason in Brighton.
I loved Miss Jason.
I know.
I used to go and see it every Monday.
So funny, like the crowd work and stuff. Like, yeah, of course. I think every performer. I think any drag performer would be a liar if they didn't say that they would watch other people and try and learn from them. And if you're not watching other performers and seeing them do something good and trying to learn from that, then yeah.
I think that goes for all performers. So my background, other than working for Sussex LGBT, is musical theatre.
Oh, wow, cool.
So yeah, trained musical theatre. So I think as a performer, you do watch and learn, and you are constantly evolving your act. So yeah, I can imagine that that's the same for drag.
Yeah, I think when someone's really good at their craft, it's like listen to them. You know, and I'm continuously learning and continuously pushing myself to try and get better and better and better. And I have major imposter syndrome half the time. So, you know, I'll come away sometimes from a weekend of shows and I'm like, why is anyone coming to watch me? What am I doing? Oh my God, this is dreadful. Yeah, and there's so many amazing performers that you can go and watch and get inspiration from and stuff as well. So yeah.
All right. Thanks. Cool. That was a great answer and a great question.
Thank you.
With a lot of stuff at the moment of like, you can't make jokes about trans people because you'll get cancelled, you'll get the rest of it, especially with certain comedians.
Yeah.
What do you think is the key to making like jokes that are inclusive of trans people? There's something that actually brings them into it that they can laugh at rather than it being exclusive at their expense.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. I think it has, I guess, it has been quite a challenging time for comedians and performers and stuff because the sort of landscape of comedy and things has changed drastically.
Yeah.
I think it's very important that we all learn to have the ability to laugh at ourselves. Like, that's definitely very, very important. But I think as a performer, one of the things that I've always tried to do, and I think I mentioned it earlier on, is that, if I'm ever going to have a joke or a laugh with an audience member, I always want to make sure that they're in on the joke and that they're comfortable, and that I'm not just like punching down or just being mean so that everyone else laughs. Do you know what I mean? So I think it is always difficult because obviously, we do have a lot of trauma around finding our identities and stuff like that. And also certainly in the world that we're living in at the moment, it feels like everybody is out to get us. But I think then actually finding places of humor within the whole situation can actually be quite freeing. And I think, so somebody I really admire at the moment, who sometimes I guess like in certain circles can be quite a controversial person, but do you know who Ash Sarkar is? Yeah. So I think Ash Sarkar has such an interesting take on like identity politics and stuff, and the issues with the left and things like that, and what's happening within politics, and where we stand as a community, and the rise of, the sort of more right-wing stuff as well. And I think they're such they've written a book called Minority Rules, and it's a very interesting book about identity politics and how we all as a community need to maybe take a little step back and try not to be as offended about absolutely everything. Everything's not necessarily said in a mean way, and actually sort of we're quite divided in an awful lot of times. So it's more about sort of bringing us back together. But I think with sort of humor and comedy, it is tricky. I think intention and context is always very, very important. I think if you've got a straight, white, cis male comedian ripping into trans, queer or POC people, then he needs to put a cork in it at the end of the day. But I think as queer people, if we can find moments to, in a way, like we took back the word queer, if we can find moments in taking back comedy, in laughing at ourselves and being able to find a safe space in that, then I think that can be quite powerful. I think that it is difficult because we are all fighting and we're all feeling a lot of trauma, so we're all a little bit on edge, and so sometimes we can be a bit overly sensitive. It's
quite charged at the moment, isn't it? I would say
it is, and it is, but I think intention and context is always important with comedy, and if you think that a performer has said something or upset you in a certain way, I would maybe take a moment just to think of what their intention and the context of what they're saying is. And actually, they are an ally. But I always say this: if I've ever upset anybody with something I've said on stage, I would rather somebody came and told me, and then I would be able to have a conversation and be like, oh, okay, well, maybe I did say something or apologize, or maybe try and get them to understand where I was coming from.
Of course.
But
because that's a learnable moment, a teachable moment for yourself and that person.
And for that person as well. But I think it is hard. I think it's hard for all queer people, but specifically trans people at the moment, because we are the scapegoat at the moment. We are the political football that's being kicked around. And I think so sometimes it can be hard to find humor, but it is there, and it just, I think, it needs to be done by the right people and in the right context.
I was going to say, because you probably find that in queer venues you can get away with that a lot easier.
100%.
Than some of your more straight focused venues.
Exactly.
And I think I remember watching something quite a while ago. I can't remember who the comedian was now, but I remember it was a guy and he was explaining about people who get insulted by his jokes. And he was saying, a bit like you, it's to do with the focus of the joke and like how you frame it.
Yeah.
And whether the joke is about something or whether that person is like the direct focus of the joke.
Exactly.
And just making sure that you can make that clearly separate.
Definitely. And I think there's always a very important rule in comedy, which is, don't punch down at the end of the day. So, but it's difficult because everything's so charged at the moment, isn't it? We're all feeling a bit raw. I mean, how do you feel when you have you been to shows where there's been sort of trans like focused comedy, and have you found it difficult?
I haven't really been to many shows myself, but I've definitely seen some comics online where there's been, I mean, yeah, sure. Sometimes you get like the performer will be trans and is able to make jokes because they can understand the joke directly. Like they know it's not harmful because it's their own thing. And I've also seen some much more like allied comedians that are able to make the jokes that are just not, that are at least not taking, like there are some funny elements to transitioning. And they're able to at least identify those elements that are funny versus the ones that are just unfair. So that was a great one I saw of somebody pointing out like, it's great when you've got like a bunch of trans women and you say something really funny because you get to hear their old laugh.
Yeah, I did see that. I can't remember who made that joke, but that was very good. I think you'll find I think you'll find any really good comedian, like nobody is safe. So like you may find somebody will take a snippet of somebody's set that could seem quite offensive, but they would have literally have absolutely ripped into every demographic. So I always think as a good comedian, it's always like, don't focus on one specific person. If you're going to take the mickey out of a trans person, then make sure that you're taking the mickey out of everybody else as well. You know, the lesbians, gays, bisexuals, everybody, and the straight people. Like, you know, it's everybody should be fair game. And I just think as long as you're just not mean and it's clever, like you're not just saying it to be mean, because that's a very well crafted joke. You know, you get to hear what their old laugh used to be like. That's funny. It is, and we know it's funny because we've all worked on making sure that we, you know, if the lights are off, they don't think they're in a room full of blokes at the end of the day. You know what I mean? We've worked on that and we find that amusing. And there is humor in there. It's just got to be good. It's got to be intelligent, and it's got to be
intentful as well. Not harmful.
Well crafted. Not say, like we say, we're not saying it to be mean. We're saying it because it's funny. Yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
I've watched you many times with my girl, and we really love you.
Oh, thank you.
Enjoyed your shows, yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So that's all. You're just good at your game.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah. So we just don't get that time to come to you. You said you're a stick in the back. So I always wanted to. Now, when I saw you are the man that list for that podcast, I had to come here.
Oh my goodness! Thank you so much. You make sure if you are at a show next time, you come and actually come and say hi. And
I will.
Before she disappears out the back.
Before. Like, don't touch me. Thank you so much. That's really lovely to hear that. Thank you.
So I just have one last question.
Oh gosh,
and this is a previous guest question.
Okay.
Now, what we do for this one is you're going to choose number 1, 2, 3, or 4.
Oh.
And I'm going to 1, 2, 3, or 4, and I'm going to ask you that question.
Okay.
It's like a bit of a Russian roulette.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, or 4. Hit me up.
4.
Ooh, okay. I need to remind myself what that is now. Okay.
You thought I was going to pick 1, didn't you?
I thought you were going to pick 1. Okay. Where is the one place you feel 100% yourself without having to explain yourself?
Oh, gosh. At home because I'm on my own, for one.
You and your dog. What's your dog's name?
Oh, Magnus.
Oh, I love that.
I've just adopted him. He's a pocket bully that I got from the RSPCA.
Oh, cute. You have to show us a picture in a bit.
Yeah. Well, I think on stage.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Grand.
Like, yeah, just be myself and just be stupid and have a great time. And that's something amazing. I love it. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for today.
Pleasure.
It's been so cool having you on.
I hope it was okay.
Yes,
Yeah, it was great.
absolutely.
Once you put a penny in me, I can't stop. That's the problem.
So just thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for our amazing co-host who is a
Yay.
familiar face. Thank you for awards for all who part funded this podcast as well. So that's incredible for them. And also to our sponsor, Bar 7 Diamonds, for sponsoring us. And of course, it goes without saying, Sam Khan Photography for all of the amazing equipment and post edits. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Love it. Can't wait.
Thank you so much for watching and listening to our podcast. And we are hoping that you are going to help us out by liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, all of the usual, because actually with your involvement, we might be able to continue this podcast and commission a few more episodes to help people like yourselves. I just want to reiterate that if you have been impacted by what we've spoken about in these episodes, then please do find the links to support in the descriptions below.